Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that literally affects every single one of us every single day. We're unpacking the tension, and it is a truly fascinating tension between state regulation and our own personal freedom. Specifically, we're looking at the UK government. How exactly does the state step into our private lives to manage our health risks outside the workplace? It's a massive clash between public safety and individual choice, all built on this incredibly complex web of sociology and policy. I'm so excited to get into this with you, so let's jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the state versus your health. Then, we'll ask, what exactly is governance? After that, we'll track the evolution of public health, look at the pillars of promotion, do a quick sociological reality check, and finally, wrap things up with the great cycle helmet debate.
So part 1, the state versus your health. Everyday interventions.
Right off the bat, I want to pose a fundamental question to you. Think about this. What is the actual role of government when it comes to known health risks? What kind of society are we really living in? Like, if science proves without a doubt that a certain behavior is bad for you, does the government have a mandate to step in and alter your behavior? Or is your health entirely your own business? Just keep that in the back of your mind as we go.
Because whether we realize it or not, the government is already super active in our personal choices. Just think about these really recognizable UK state interventions. You've got the 2007 smoking ban, the sugar levy that hit in 2018, minimum unit pricing on alcohol, which started in Scotland around 2018, and of course, mandatory seatbelts going all the way back to 1983. Notice how these aren't workplace safety rules? These are regulations literally dictating what you eat, what you drink, and what you do in your own free time. The state is already deeply embedded in your lifestyle. But how?
That brings us to Section 2. What exactly is governance? Defining the invisible hand.
We toss the word government around all the time, right? But governance is a slightly different beast. There's a definition from Gray in 2004 that says, governance is the arrangements by which authority and function are allocated and rights and obligations established and regulated. Okay, academic jargon aside, in simple terms, governance is the invisible machinery. It's not just some politician signing a piece of paper, it is the entire massive system of policies, practices, and authorities that actually put health rules into effect in our society.
Now, on the flip side of all that strict rule-based governance, we have health promotion. The standard definition here is that it's the process of enabling people to increase control over and to improve their health. Notice the massive difference in language there? Governance is all about regulation and obligation, whereas health promotion uses these really positive words like enabling and increasing control. It sets up this absolutely critical contrast. Is the state forcing you to be healthy or simply empowering you to make better choices?
Section 3, the evolution of public health, from sewers to lifestyles.
Historically speaking, public health has gone through a massive pivot. Back in the 1840s, the focus was strictly on housing, food, and basic sanitation, like literally fixing the sewers. Then, around the 1870s, it shifted toward personal hygiene and immunizations. By the 1930s, we hit the therapeutic era of hospital-based medicine. But then, the 1970s happened, and we enter what's called the new public health era. Suddenly, the focus entirely shifts to personal preventative measures. So, instead of just trying to cure you once you're already sick, the system is now actively trying to alter your lifestyle so you don't get sick in the first place.
Section 4, the pillars of promotion, the global strategy.
You see, this new public health focus on lifestyle isn't just some random UK policy. It's backed by a highly coordinated global framework. Take the World Health Organization's 2016 Shanghai Declaration. It lays out 3 main pillars of health promotion. First, good governance. Basically, making health a top priority for policymakers everywhere. Second, health literacy, giving everyday people the knowledge they need to make good choices. And third, healthy cities, actually building preventative measures right into our urban planning. So that local sugar tax or that new cycling lane in your town, that's actually part of a massive, globally endorsed strategy to govern population health.
Moving on to Section 5, a sociological reality check, critiquing the system.
In the world of sociology, there's this huge ongoing debate between 2 main approaches. On one side, you have the individualistic approach. This focuses on what's often called the holy trinity of risk factors: smoking, diet, and exercise. It essentially boils down to, hey, your health is your choice. But on the other side, the structural approach argues that this is incredibly short-sighted. The structural view points out that we are profoundly shaped by our environment. So blaming someone for having a bad diet completely ignores the real structural constraints they might be facing, things like poverty, poor housing, or a lack of education.
Which brings us to this fascinating concept called the fallacy of empowerment. It's perfectly captured by a quote from Blackster back in 1990. Only in the more favorable circumstances is there room for considerable damage or improvement by the adoption of voluntary health-related habits. Just think about what that really means for a second. If you are struggling just to survive week to week, you don't exactly have the luxury, the room, to worry about organic diets or taking up Pilates, right? Poor health status directly correlates with having the least power to actually change it. So policies that rely completely on individual willpower often end up failing the exact people who need them the most.
And this systemic pressure has actually morphed into some very modern forms of social regulation. Think about your health tracking apps, your calorie counters, the sleep monitor on your wrist. Sociologists argue that we've essentially shifted from external rules to internalized surveillance. Thanks to technology, we are now literally policing our own behaviors. We're holding ourselves accountable to the state's health ideals, right from our own smartphones. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
Let's look at Section 6, the cycle helmet debate, a case study.
The simple act of strapping on a bicycle helmet perfectly encapsulates everything we've been talking about today. On one hand, the state sees a very clear health risk, head injuries from traffic accidents, and they know for a fact that a helmet reduces that risk. So, mandating helmets seems like a solid, structural approach to protect public health, right? But on the other hand, critics argue that a mandate infringes on individual freedom. And even crazier, they point out it might actually discourage people from cycling altogether, which ends up hurting overall public health in the long run. It is literally the ultimate collision of governance, risk, and personal liberty.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today, circling right back to the core tension we started with. Where exactly should we draw the line between public safety and individual freedom? At what point does helpful health promotion cross the line into overbearing governance? As you go about your day-to-day, whether you're grabbing a sugary coffee, clicking your seatbelt, or checking your step count, I really want you to critically examine that invisible hand of public health policy guiding your choices. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer to dive into the state versus your health. Keep questioning and keep learning.